Hey y'all, and welcome back to Our Road Less Traveled. Today, a lot of you know we use Starlink. We were one of the first ones to jump on it. I'm going to explain why it's not, quote, cutting it for being able to work remotely, and the solution that we're putting together to solve that issue. So y'all stand by. This is going to be a long one. So we're going to unbox the PepWave. The manufacturer is Peplink. The device is called a PepWave. Now this is the Max BR1 Pro 5G, which is different from the Duo. So it's a little unit. You can see it's the size of your hand. I'm actually going to put glasses on for this. So this one has two LAN connections and one WAN. It comes with 120 volt AC adapter, as well as you can get it with a 12 volt DC cable. I bought this from Techno RV simply because this thing is price locked. You're going to pay the same thing for it regardless of where you buy it. But Techno RV throws in the cable for free, so went with them. Plus, they're just good people. This has multiple antennas on the back of it. The big thing about the antenna side, your connectivity is going to come from the antennas. The higher the quality of the antenna, the better signal reception you're going to get. So all the reviews say that you don't need external antennas with this because the antenna array on this is just fantastic from PepWave. So with that, and this is all very nicely packaged into a very small, it just stacks. So these are the antennas, which we're not necessarily, I guess we're going to have to look these up. This is going to be the GPS antenna. We're not going to use the GPS antenna. And then it comes with, that's used for cable management. You just wrap it around there. So each one of these, it comes with, the bigger antennas are going to be your 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which there is a big difference between your 4 and 5G antennas. 5G cellular versus 5G Wi-Fi, they just carry the same name. So when you're talking about wireless connectivity, that's your 5 gigahertz range. When you're talking about cellular is it's a radio frequency. It ranges from, I think it's 3 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. That's the range of your spectrum. And then within that spectrum, you have individual bands that cellular, 5G specifically operates on. Your lower bands, your 1 through, typically your 1 gigahertz range is going to be your low band. Then you've got your medium band, which is from 1 to 6 gigahertz, and then your high band, which is I think it's 24 gigahertz and above. So your low band is your slower speed but wider area. So think of it like a pancake. With the low band, your pancake has a really big diameter, but it's not that thick. All right. Your medium band isn't going to be quite as big, so your coverage area is going to shrink a little bit, but your pancake's going to be a little fluffier. Your High band, your 24 gigahertz and above, is going to be an even smaller pancake, but it's going to be much thicker. So typically what you want is within the 5 gigahertz range or 5G range, you want good coverage, which is basically in all your major metropolitan areas. But then as you get outside of those, then you're going to drop down to 4G. And that 4G coverage, you really need to find a solid provider. So this is not my opinion. This is 100% statistical, and you can go validate this yourself. T-Mobile, hands down, has the best 5G coverage with the biggest pancake. Can't be argued. They cover 68% of the United States with their 5G signal. AT&T is second. I think they're right around the 24 to 26% range. Verizon is last. They're at 22. And this changes daily, so, again, go do your own research. But I'm telling you right now, as of March of 23, T-Mobile is the best 5G provider. Now, if you can't get 5G, what does that mean? Well, it means that these guys here, these antennas, fell back down to 4G. The best 4G network out there, which is your LTE, that's going to be Verizon. They cover an astonishing 98% of the United States. AT&T is second. T-Mobile is a very distant third because T-Mobile is not building out LTE. They are only focused on 5G. Now, when you're talking about these Gs in the cellular world, 1G is the first generation, second generation. So we're on the 5th generation of your cellular broadband rollout. So what we've decided to do is we're going to go with T-Mobile as our primary 5G connection. And then we're going to back that up with Verizon for our failback 4G LTE connection, while Starlink is going to be our primary internet connection as long as we have a view to the northern sky. And then if we're in a campground like we are right now that has really good 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi connections, we're also going to be able to create a bridge with this so that this acts as a repeater for that wireless signal. PepWave has proprietary software that will allow us to take all of these connections and we mux them inside a VPN tunnel. That VPN tunnel then goes out, connects to one of their host locations, and our jump off point is from that. So if one of them were to drop or slow down, it would not affect the entire tunnel and we would maintain connectivity the whole time. We've been using Starlink since May of 22. Starlink has 2 different versions. They have the residential version and they have what's now called the roaming version. When we originally got set up with Starlink, we bought the residential and they had the option to add a mobility package to it. So we registered our unit and picked it up in Idaho. In Idaho, we were pulling down 700 megs a second, 31 milliseconds of latency. It was just incredible. It does a really good job. As it's progressed and more people have gotten onto it, and we've gone outside of areas that are considered to be non-authorized. So I'm going to refer to them as dark blue and light blue. The light blue are places that areas are already saturated, and in those light blue areas, you get best effort only. In the dark blue areas, those are the areas that are not overly saturated, and you get full, unfettered access to the amazing speed that Starlink is capable of. Right now, that light blue area, which is best effort and limited, you basically have to get west of Texas and then it's spotty. So that creates a challenge for us. Right now we're over closer towards the East Coast. We're in an area that's speed limited, so we pull anywhere from 10 megs a second now up to 150 megs, which is still good. You can still work on that. The latency is still fairly low. The problem that we run into is if there is any tree coverage whatsoever, then Starlink doesn't work. And it's not that it doesn't work. It works great if you're streaming videos. Me, I work full time. I work over a VPN. And if that connection drops for even a millisecond, it drops the VPN. The VPN has to reestablish, so it creates a nightmare for me. Like I said, watching TV, not a problem. So we decided that what we're going to do is we're going to build a redundant system and see if we can't get our level of quality up. Secondary reason is, in order to stay in campgrounds with no trees like we're at now, typically the cost is $80 to $120 a night, which is unsustainable. We're looking to get into state parks, national parks, and Starlink doesn't work in those. There are 3 primary carriers that offer cell service. It's T-Mobile, who's the best 5G. You've got Verizon, which is the worst in the 5G segment, but the best in the 4G LTE. And then you've got AT&T. AT&T is in the process of building theirs out, and they're actually building out things that require a Qualcomm, I think it's a 65 or 67 modem, whereas Peplink is still using Qualcomm 55s. So the next generation of the AT&T 5G network, this probably won't work with because it's got older 5G modems in it. But I bring that up to say every one of these, well, there's U.S. Cellular, I think, is a fourth, but they're not even a player in this game yet. They're that far down in the list. But I bring all that up to say you have all these add-on services. You've got Nomad, who is backed by Verizon. It functions off of a Verizon signal. Then you've got Metro, that's backed off of T-Mobile. So all these other things that you're seeing, other RV channels saying, hey, we found the best internet. Well, they're all tied back to one of the 3. It's just somebody reselling it, rebranding it, and they all function the same. Now, I'm not discrediting that. You can check their packages out and see if you can find a cheaper plan through one of these, I call them second-tier providers. Each one of the big 3, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon, they all offer home kits. And essentially, you can take their home kit and you can pull this SIM out of that home kit and you can put it into a cellular router. And in theory, that will work. As of today, T-Mobile is the only one that is not geofencing their cellular home internet. I've heard that that's going to be changing in the next 30 to 60 days, and you will only be able to use your home internet kit at your registered address. AT&T and Verizon already geofence that, and if you take that home internet kit away from your address, the GPS antenna that's built into those cellular routers provided by them notifies them that you are outside your home address, and it shuts that system down. So I would not encourage anybody to use a home internet kit with a third-party cellular router to try and work remotely. If you do, just be prepared for it to one day just not work. So what have we decided to do with ours? Well, what we did was we now have 3 cellular data plans, and that is based off of a cell phone. We have an unlimited T-Mobile plan called the Magenta plan. This was actually purchased for a phone. I had them register the SIM in the office through a demo phone, so I know this SIM works. It connected to the network and it's synchronized to that phone. I'm going to take this SIM and I'm going to put it into this slot for our cellular one connection. Then we did the same thing with the 5G or the Verizon. This is authorized equipment on all three networks. There seems to be an issue on the back end because the ESIM number or whatever it is in all three of the databases was supposed to start with some 42 number. Well, I guess through production they changed the 42 number, so now these things are authorized on the networks, but for some reason they have an issue with activating a SIM. So I was told activate the SIM inside a phone and then move it to the Peplink. So that's what we've done. All three of these are cellular phone data plans. And if we have to go to a third, we'll pull the SIM out of my iPhone and plug it in there to replace one of these two guys. All right, so I know a lot of y'all are probably wondering, why would you put together 3 cellular plans, Campground Wi-Fi, Starlink internet? Why would you pay that amount of money every month just to watch Netflix? Well, the fact is, we don't do it to watch Netflix. I can watch Netflix as a hotspot off my phone. Our livelihood, what allows us to be on the road and do this full time, is I work full time. I have a full time 8 to 5 job, Monday through Friday, excluding holidays. So if I can't connect, I can get fired. I mean, that's just the cold hard facts. So I want redundancy. I want capability. You know, if we show up somewhere, well, case in point, in order for us to be at a campground before going this route, we had to pull up Google Maps and we had to look at the RV park. If there was a tree there, couldn't go. We had to make sure that I could find some type of reliable Starlink connection. If there was no data on it, couldn't trust it. We had to go somewhere else. It really limited us in where we could go, where we could stay, and it typically is very expensive. So with this setup, we'll still have to do some checks because they're like in the park we're at right now. T-Mobile blankets this place with 5G. Verizon, on the other hand, covers one half of it. Thankfully, we're in the half that their 5G supposedly works in. But less than 150 yards from here, their 5G signal ends and it's all 4G. Now, let's keep in perspective. 5G is, up to 10 gigs in data transfer, which is theoretical. 4G is still a strong 200-300 megs a second, which is what we're getting with Starlink. So, it's not like, you're talking about a 2800 baud modem back in the day of dial-up. So anyway, that's why we're going to this extent, is we have to make sure that I'm connected for work. Now, the secondary reasons for that, we use micro air thermostats. We have some other things in the rig that require internet access so that we can get back into the rig. We leave Stella inside the RV frequently, and I want to know that the inside of the RV is at a certain temperature, that we didn't have a coil freeze over. I want to make sure that our wireless network is 100% spot on. So that's why we do it. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the wireless internet antennas. Eventually, I don't know where I'm actually going to mount this thing in the rig. I'm playing with putting it above the pantry and running a new power wire up there. But as of right now, I just don't know where it's going to go. So it's probably just going to sit here on the desk. All right, so that's the basic setup of it, for it to sit right here on the desk. The cover right here, this thing has a screw. Instead of a normal rubber flap, it's got a screw on it. That screw covers the SIM holder. Now, I'm going to take the SIM out of this guy. You know, let's do a test with this first. All right, so we're going to turn this on. I just want to see if it picks up 5G or 4G. All right, so as you can see, it pulled up 4G LTE. And it's only got 2 bars. So we're going to power this off. I'm going to take this SIM out. And we're going to put this SIM in slot B. Next, we're going to take the T-Mobile. And put it in there. So I've got T-Mobile in A, I've got Verizon in B. I'll spin that thing back around. We've got our cellular A, B, C, and D antennas. I did not hook the GPS up. We've got our LAN 1 and 2 and our WAN connection. So Starlink, I've got the Ethernet adapter that will go into WAN 1, and then WAN 2 can either go to like a switch or another router or something, or you can configure that as a secondary WAN and you can have 2 WAN connections going in. We're probably not going to use these. I wanted the option though. So that's that. And then let's get the power cord. That just simply powers on right there. All right, so step 1 of the setup process, after you get everything unboxed, connected up, powered up, you'll have a little card inside and it walks through and it tells you basically how to connect to the thing. For those of you that are like me, that have to wear glasses to see things up front and smaller print, what I did, this same information is on the very bottom of that router. What I do is I take a picture of that with my cell phone. You open up your wireless properties, you connect to your PepWave device. It lists the connection password on the bottom of the modem. Now, just so you know, it's the last 8 digits of the LAN MAC address or the hardware address. So we're connected up to it. The next step is you open up an internet browser and you go to the IP address, again listed on the back of the router, at 192.168.1, and then you use the default username, password, admin. As soon as you log into it, it makes you change the password. So that's where we're at now. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do before I do anything else, and I would encourage you to do this because typically when you do a firmware update, some devices like to remove a bunch of settings. So I do firmware updates first in case it overwrites my settings. I don't have to do it twice. But on the dashboard, you can see we're connected to T-Mobile and 5G. Remember, Verizon was at 4G LTE. So T-Mobile is better in this area. And if you look, we've got 5 bars. I mean, it's a dang good connection with, and let's do a quick search. We'll do a Nokia speed test. All right, so it found it as T-Mobile. That's pretty dang good, y'all. It's smoking Starlink right now. So that was download. Our upload. Upload's not bad. I think it's 10 times the Starlink speed on that as well. So what we will do, just for grins, I'm going to go ahead and connect to Starlink. All right, so we're connected. I'm going to do another speed test. Found it as SpaceX. It's not that bad. It's going to end up being about 125, 130, which is what we're accustomed to. What's going to be awful is the upload speed. Actually, I'm kind of shocked. Usually it's around 10 to 12. All right, so now just for comparison, what we're going to do is I'm going to connect just to this campground's Wi-Fi. All right, so we're connected there. We're going to do another speed test. All right, this is going to be over Comcast Business. Now, for campground Wi-Fi, the mere fact that it'll get connected and actually get data out is a plus. But it's got a 5 meg download. There's actually something there's something screwy with this connection. Your upload speed should never be double your download speed. So we can actually upload at 9.5 megs versus 5.7. Starlink is 124 with an upload of 14. And 5G is a download of 331 with an upload of 992. Now, if you take those two connections together and wrap them inside a VPN, I can get a download of 331, and I can use the upload side of Starlink to upload at 14.5 megs. That's why we're going with PepWave. So I'm going to do some other configuration stuff on here. All right. So we're up. I'm going to look at the system settings, firmware. We are running 8.3. I'm going to do just another check to make sure. No update available. Okay. All right. So step, whatever it is, we unboxed it. We put the antennas on it. We put the cellular cards in it. We did the speed test with the campground, the mobile hotspots, all the stuff. I just finished the firmware upgrade, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, if you click on cellular here, it allows you right here under network mode. So I was wondering, why is only T-Mobile showing up? Well, one, it's only got one cellular modem in it. It can only use one service at a time. Two, I've got it set to auto. So because T-Mobile is the much better signal, it's going to default to T-Mobile. Now, what I can do is I can hop over here, and just to verify that my SIM card is working, I'm going to tell it that it's Verizon. And I'm going to save and apply that. I think the device has to be rebooted. I think the PepWave will only reboot because it's got one modem. It'll reboot itself when it goes from T-Mobile to Verizon. But honestly, when the system comes up, it ought to choose the best signal then, and it shouldn't fluctuate while you're using it. All right, so what I did was I took the T-Mobile card out because this PepWave is too freaking intelligent. And even though I told it to use Verizon, it found T-Mobile as a stronger signal and it went to it. So we're connected to Verizon via LTE-A. So we're going to check and see. We're going to do a speed test. as to what this LTE is versus the 5G that we got at 331 via T-Mobile. So as you can see, it's 300 megs slower than the 5G T-Mobile, but 34 megs is still usable to work remotely from. So this is a good backup to a backup. The upload speed looks like it's actually going to be even better at 19, maybe 20 megs upload. So the upload on the LTE side is way better than the download. Well, not better, but it's the upload on the Verizon LTE side is better than the upload on the T-Mobile 5G side. So with that done, what I'm going to do is we're going to have to reboot this thing one more time. I'm actually going to power it down, put both the SIMs back in it. I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but these SIMs just go right there in the back. They're double stacked, so one is this way and one is this way. So the bottom one you have to put in with the circuit board up. The top one, you put it with it down. And it's just like your phone. It's just spring-loaded. And then it's got a cap that goes over it that holds it in place. Now, if neither one of these were to work, I would take the SIM out of my phone and I would replace one of those. So we're going to power this back up. I'm going to create a bookmark in this. I'm going to go through the configuration on this. So anybody that wants to see how I'm going to set ours up, set the priority, you can do that. Those that don't, I guess just exit the video now, because the rest of it is all going to be how how I configure this. Now, before I get into that, what I'm going to go over is how are we going to use this. So right now, Starlink is primary. A phone or an external hotspot has been secondary, which those have not been fantastic. Starlink, as everybody knows, has a built-in wireless system in it. So we've got our SSID assigned to Starlink. So how are we going to make all these things that are now currently connected to Starlink connect to this as a hotspot? So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I've ordered the Ethernet adapter from Starlink. So we'll use a private wireless connection from Starlink to the Ethernet adapter. The Ethernet adapter will plug into WAN 1 on this guy here. That's how they will communicate. Now, as far as the micro airs and everything that are connected to Starlink now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our wireless SSID, which is the name for the wireless network. I'm going to take it off of that and I'm going to put it on this, and I'll make that one something crazy like, we don't use this no more. So everything will rehome back to this guy. And then we'll have our cellular 1 and 2 on here. So it'll be an easy integration to get this straightened out. Now, the one thing that I am concerned with, and I'll have to do some more investigation, I'll have to do a second video on this, is the cellular networks, you get public IPs on them. They come directly into the router. The router then does what's called a network address translation, a NAT, from that public IP to a private IP. Starlink does not work that way. Starlink is already natted by the time it gets into the rig to a private IP address. So we're going to be double natted from Starlink to this. So you've got a NAT from here to Starlink, and then from Starlink to a satellite's a second NAT. I've got to check and see what that's going to do to that connection speed, or if it's even going to be an issue. I'll do a follow-up video on all the capabilities of the PepWave, but from here on, it's just going to be configuration of the PepWave. All right, so what I've done now is I've split our road less traveled. I'm going to connect to the PepWave. All right, so as you can see, I'm connecting. What I've done is I've taken Starlink and I've split Starlink into the two wireless frequencies, the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz. So now I have dual connections from the Peplink back to Starlink. Now, is that really going to do anything for me? No, probably not really. But what it does is it allows me to create a 2.4 gigahertz access point name and a 5 gigahertz access name in the Starlink, so that I can take our road less traveled and put it on the Peplink. So now I have our road less traveled 2.4 and our road less traveled 5 on the Starlink. Now, if something were to happen to the PepWave, we could immediately fail over and connect directly to the Starlink via different SSID, but I want everything to go here so I don't have to reconfigure anything. And it's funny, if you notice, Starlink only runs on one channel. It's running on channel 11 for the 2.4 and channel 40 for the 5 gigahertz. So we're connected on the wireless side here. Our WAN is not connected yet. So at least I've got our Starlink up and going. Our cellular is in standby because it hasn't failed over. This is still good. So what we'll do, I'm going to do a speed test. It's saying that it's Starlink. I just want to make sure that we're not seeing a degradation of service from what we were at to where we are now. So Starlink was a little bit better earlier. It's not as hot right now, but I can still work over this. All right, so we're going to close that. Now we're going to go in and we're actually going to fix. All right, so we're going to use the integrated access point, the SSID. I'm going to change this. This is going to be all right. So I'm taking the SSID that was on the Starlink originally. I'm putting it now on the Peplink so that everything that was pre-configured will automatically home back to this. All right, so I've applied the changes. I've saved it. Now we're going to go to this guy here. We're going to verify that the wireless access point shows up. It did. If you notice, it didn't prompt me for a username and password. It is automatically connecting to this. All right, so I finished the basic configuration, which is pretty much all I'm going to show you guys, because the other stuff, I've got to learn Peplink's terminology and how they do certain things. I'm going to set up QoS so that my phone calls and work-related applications and traffic take priority over anything else that would be functioning inside the fifth wheel. I'll run through what I did. Was I changed the DHCP, which is the Dynamic Host Control Protocol. That's what issues IPs to devices automatically, so you don't have to keep track of them. I like to set that in a range from 100 to 199, so that everything dynamically assigned is in the 100 range. That would be the TV, laptops, all of that stuff. And I may scale that down more because we don't have 100 devices. I changed the NTP settings so that it pulled the NTP settings from outside so that the clock is always right on it. I verified that we could see the micro air thermostats, that I could see laptops, I could see other things connected to the network. I changed the host name because I like all that to be standard. I don't really care to use the name of the device. The reason why is if somebody were to see that somewhere somehow, then knowing that it's a Peplink could give insight as to how to defeat the system or log into the system or something like that. I changed the username and password on it to get into it. I validated that I could get into it and manage it via Wi-Fi as well as a connected LAN cable. Other than that, it's a basic setup. I verified that it would work with Verizon. I verified that it would work with T-Mobile. I verified that it would work with Starlink. I can't test that I can set the campground to be part of that because I've only got one WAN port on it, and right now that's being used by, or one WAN bridge, which is being used by Starlink. So other than that, I think we're all good. I'm gonna fire it up. We're gonna run off of it today. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, I love this stuff. This is what I do for a living. My whole background is in network engineering, network security, cybersecurity. I love this stuff. I really, really do. So any questions, comments? I would almost say that if you need help configuring one of these things, message me privately on Facebook or something, and I'll send you my cell phone number, walk you through how to set this stuff up. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. I know this is long. Hopefully you can use the bookmarks to get what you need out of it. And again, thanks for watching. Y'all have a great day.